team, we're back again. Fraser here from Your Performance, where we teach you the principles to perform better in life, leisure and sport. So we go through our foot width and our setup there for our Olympic lifts, and we'll talk about slight variations between the clean and the snatch setup, just more so in how that integrates into the whole body system as we move that barbell, and why it's important to make those changes as well. So with our foot positioning, so everybody's going to have different lever lengths, joint proportions, etc. So everybody's going to have a slight variation of these. So I'll go through some, again, principles, but then adjust it to yourself according to what's best fit for you, but making sure that we're staying nice and balanced as we pull through the whole lift, and we're not sort of having some erratic sort of weight shifts as we pull. So again, general principles, but otherwise adjust these to where we need to be, because your limbs are going to be different to mine. So what you'll see myself generally do, my toes actually start relatively straight. I start square on. I find I can create enough tension and torque in that position to be able to pull from the floor, whether it's the clean or the snatch. My clean width is a little bit more narrow, so generally it's going to be a bit more powerful, but that's just because I don't have to get down as far as well. So I'm going to get more mechanical advantage or advantageous positions from my clean pull, which is just same for most people, hence why we can lift a greater weight, right? Plus it's also going to our chest before it goes overhead as well. So where we're going to be is we're going to be at least a hip width space apart. So that's going to be our general jumping position. So we should be able to do our best vertical jump from this position and land consistently there. What some people might do to accommodate their hip width or even their ankle flexibility will be a little bit wider, so then allow the pelvis to sit more between those knees. But otherwise, some people will see the toe out a little bit more. Generally, if those things feel more comfortable, work into them, work with them, but you don't have to sit there if you don't feel comfortable and balanced with that too. Being in an externally rotated position or even pressing your knees out isn't necessary. We should be able to generate tension without having to create movement to do so. So what that means is that we should be able to tense that musculature around the hip and throughout the leg without having to actually shift our position or make a movement to do so. I should be able to generate hip tension here to stay nice and stable, to then say stand up and have a lunge without having to go, I need to fire my glutes, so I need to push my knee out. Right? I should be able to do that without doing that. The other thing, when we do that, what we're generally forcing, what a lot of people get, is a lot of deep external rotators doing the work for them. So they're actually disadvantaging their involvement of the glute. So what we want to try and do is make sure that we're generating tension without creating movement. So again, your foot width will generally be about where we're going to jump from. We can go a little bit wider or turn those toes out to accommodate our different hip architecture. What we then want to do is make sure that where that weight will be balanced, as we talked about with our feet, it's going to be over the midfoot most of that way up the lift. Okay. With our snatch versus our clean, I'll generally start a couple inches a little bit wider. My chest will actually be a bit more upright, so if I get more in my snatch grip position, a little bit harder to do it without holding the actual barbell in hand, but otherwise my chest angle is going to be a little bit more higher or steeper than what my clean might be. That's simply because my feet are a little bit closer together and I don't have to reach as far down to that barbell to set myself in that nice hip position or to get the most out of my legs and my hips. Yeah. So yes, it's more about how I do things or how I feel in my positions, but the general principle is with those foot positioning, accommodate your lever proportions by either going wider in your stance or adjusting your toe angle, but otherwise don't feel you need to be fixed in a certain position or do very specific things such as driving the knees out, etc., to then get your right feel. Alright. The other thing to consider as we go through the pull, what we might see, like our weight shifts with our feet as we start to move the barbell, is our knees might shift a little bit. Alright. At the bottom of our pull, it's very common for the knees to come into internal rotation as we come up towards the knee and then back out to external rotation as we come up the leg. What we don't want to see is that knee come in too drastically. So it shouldn't look like a collapse, all right? That might mean that we've got some adductor weakness or some core or trunk stability issues, so we can work on those ones through different drills, which we might go through later, but otherwise making sure that We're keeping, again, generate tension without movement, because we want everything to be pushing that bar or that body force into the ground to then transfer into that barbell. All right. So clean stance is a little bit more narrow, snatch stance is a little bit wider. Adjust your width to then fit your pelvis, and then from there adjust your foot angle to then make it feel comfortable in the front of the hip. All right. That way we can keep that trunk nice and straight. So if we apply the principles that we've already gone through with our shoulder positioning, elbow positioning, and our pelvis positioning, we should be able to combine all that with our foot balance to then make a nice straight pull. All right. Have a try of those, experiment with your setup position, and let me know how that helps you perform better.